Welcome to Midnight Affairs Tales, where secrets don't sleep. Tell us where you're watching from, then buckle up. And most important, never forget to subscribe to our channel. Starts now. She said she loved me, right before I found the second burner phone under her car seat. 7 years of marriage burned in 7 seconds. The air in the garage was still. Just the sound of dripping water from the old water heater and Cal's boots on concrete. He stared at the phone in his gloved hand, backlit by the dim trunk light. Small, cheap, scratched screen. He flipped it open and pressed the power button. No passcode. The screen lit up. See you tonight. Same hotel. I can't wait. He doesn't suspect anything. I made him lasagna. Keep smiling. We're almost there. He didn't scroll further. He didn't need to. 3 hours earlier, she hugged him like nothing was wrong. God, you're back early. Her arms wrapped tight. Her perfume, vanilla and sugar, was exactly as he remembered. Her smile, wide and practiced. I missed you so much. Cal had smiled too. Just enough. He said nothing about the call he received in Kandahar. A tip from a guy he once saved from a roadside bomb. The kind of tip that starts with, you might want to check your wife's financials when you land. Back in the garage, he took a breath. Long controlled. Combat breathing. He snapped a photo of the phone screen. Front. Back. Messages. Contacts. Then shut it off, tucked it into a small lead-lined pouch from his field days, and slid it into his duffel bag next to the Glock 19 he legally brought home. When he walked back into the house, she was at the sink, rinsing dishes. Did you forget something in the car? She asked, cheerful. Yeah, he said, with a smile so perfect it hurt. Just an old charger. Useless now. She kissed him on the cheek. The house looked the same. Every photo still in place. Wedding portrait by the stairs. The one of their son, Evan, in his Little League uniform, age 6, smiling with 2 missing teeth. Evan was asleep upstairs. Cal sat down at the kitchen island and watched her move. Hair tied back. Wedding ring on. Nothing suspicious in her face. That's what shook him most. She looked like the same woman he married. But she wasn't. By morning, she had no idea anything was wrong. He took Evan to school, dropped him off like any normal dad, smiled at the principal, shook hands with the coach, then returned home and kissed his wife on the forehead. She laughed. You're in a good mood today. Guess I'm just happy to be back. Cal drove to a motel 3 towns over and opened the pouch. He pulled out the burner and connected it to his old field laptop. The kind that doesn't connect to the internet unless you tell it to. Dragged all the data. Texts. Photos. GPS logs. Call history. Her lover's name wasn't listed as a contact. Just a number. But Cal knew how to run a trace. It took him 30 minutes. The number belonged to Brandon Lyles, her former colleague at a law firm she worked at 2 years ago. Divorced. No kids. Financial consultant. Same man who recently opened a new private equity LLC, with her name signed as secondary power of attorney. Cal didn't react. He logged every detail. Built a folder. OP. Phoenix, that's what he named it. Not because he wanted to burn it all down, but because he would rise from it when it was done. That night, she made lasagna. Just like the message said. This is just like old times, she said, placing a full plate in front of him. You okay? He looked up. Of course. Just a lot on my mind. She reached over, touched his hand. Warm. Steady. I'm here now. You can relax. He smiled back. She didn't notice that the security camera in the kitchen, disabled for months, had been quietly replaced with a new one that fed to a hidden drive in the garage. Or that the dash cam in her SUV was now upgraded. Or that her emails were being cloned into a shadow inbox. Or that she wasn't the only one playing a long game anymore. Cal didn't sleep that night. He watched the camera footage from dinner. Studied her face. Her voice. Her movements. She was good. Trained, almost. But not trained like him. He'd spent 2 years in a unit where truth meant survival. Where betrayal got people killed. Where you learned to listen more than you spoke. To wait. To plan. He wouldn't confront her. Not yet. He'd collect everything. Watch every move. Plant what needed to be planted. Build the story from the ground up. Because the truth wasn't just that she cheated. The truth was she had invested in a weaponized lie, one designed to strip him of custody, assets, and identity. And she was smiling as she served him lasagna. The house smelled like cinnamon and lies. Kel stood at the hallway window just past 9 a.m., sipping black coffee. Her car backed out of the driveway smoothly. She waved at the neighbor, Mrs. Holloway, across the street. She always waved. As soon as her taillights vanished, Cal locked the front door. He had exactly 6 hours before she came back. He walked straight to the garage, opened the old army footlocker tucked behind a stack of Christmas boxes, and unlocked the false bottom. Inside, encrypted drives, a foldable tactical laptop, a thumb-sized voice recorder, and a burner of his own, unregistered, clean, and silent. He wasn't just documenting betrayal now. He was preparing for war. In the dining room, beneath the chandelier they bought together in Charleston, he set up a mobile command station. Nothing fancy, no high-tech spy movie gadgets, just methodical strategy, the kind of discipline drilled into him during covert debriefs overseas. He already had a timeline of her suspicious texts. Now he needed patterns. He scrubbed the burner phone's GPS metadata again. It wasn't just dinners and motels. She'd been at a downtown legal office for separate times in the past 6 weeks. Each visit lasted under 40 minutes. Not enough for a client meeting, just enough for paperwork. Cal started building a flowchart. Financials, property records, emails, dates of deposit, who signed what. And then he saw it. A joint account, quietly opened 3 months ago. $120,000 in it. All under an LLC called Marrow Creek Partners. Her name was secondary. Brandon Lyles was the primary. This wasn't an affair. This was a con. A slow-burn dismantling of Cal's life while he was thousands of miles away, trusting the wrong people. At noon, he was back at Evan's school on time, like always. His son sprinted to him, full of energy. Coach said we might make it to regionals. Cal knelt. That's awesome, buddy. Mom said maybe we'll go to Disney if you stay home this time. Cal smiled like a proud dad. We'll talk about it. Evan climbed into the back seat, humming something from his favorite YouTube channel. Completely unaware his mother was planning to erase his father's name from their future. By dinner, the cameras were already catching cracks. He had installed a tiny pinhole cam in the corner of the master bedroom mirror. From the bed, it saw everything: the phone tapping, the long pauses, the little smirk she made after deleting texts. She still cooked like nothing was wrong. Still laughed. Still kissed Evan goodnight. She even leaned into Cal as they watched a movie, her head on his shoulder like old times. Feels good having you back, she whispered. Cal gently stroked her hair. It does. And all the while, the silent recorder under the couch kept rolling. That night, she fell asleep first. Cal waited, watched her chest rise and fall, then slipped out of bed, moved like a shadow across the room, and opened her laptop. Password protected. He used a keystroke capture he'd planted 2 days ago. Typed in the password, Rainslove24 ironic. Inside her inbox were dozens of legal documents, most of them recent. One caught his eye: preliminary filing, custody motion. Evan Rains, the attached form was already half-filled. No date submitted yet, but the intent was clear. She was preparing to file before he could regain full civilian residency status, when his presence could be labeled unstable due to recent foreign service. She was setting him up as an absentee father. Back downstairs, Cal stared at the file. He didn't rage. He didn't panic. He took notes. The date fields. The notary stamps. The law firm headers. Every detail was logged, printed, and filed into a locked briefcase. That night, he made his first phone call to someone he hadn't spoken to in nearly a decade. Rains. The voice on the other end was gravel and whiskey. Jesus, I thought you were in the wind. I need someone who can trace internal firm records without triggering alerts, Cal said calmly. And I need it quiet. There was a pause. This personal? Cal looked at the flickering camera feed of his wife curled in bed. No, it's precise. The next morning, he let her drive Evan to school. He needed her out longer. He used the time to clone the hard drive on her work laptop and dig through deleted items. It was worse than he thought. A power of attorney form, filed under a different client name, linked directly back to his own pension account. She had forged Cal's signature to give Brandon financial leverage over a military retirement package worth nearly $300,000, under the guise of investment partnership. They hadn't just plotted emotional betrayal. They had aimed to erase him. Later that afternoon, she returned, smiling like nothing was wrong. "You okay?" she asked. "You've been quiet lately." He looked at her like a man seeing a ghost. "Just readjusting." She touched his arm. "We could do something this weekend. Just us." "Sounds good," he said calmly. "Let's make it special." That night, she was in the shower. Cal walked into her closet. He opened the box labeled holiday cards. Taped to the underside of the lid, barely visible, was the second burner. Not the one he found, the new one. She was smarter than he thought. He powered it on. New messages. "He's back but clueless. Give me 2 weeks, and I'll file. Can't risk triggering his lawyer. Need to wait until he's technically civilian. Just smile and cook." Cal took a slow breath. He didn't record these texts. He printed them. Every single one. Then, he placed a new SIM inside the phone, his SIM. Every message she'd send from now on, he'd be reading them in real time. As she walked out, towel in hand, hair dripping, she smiled. "You're looking at me weird," she teased. Cal leaned back against the wall, expression relaxed. "Just remembering how lucky I am." She laughed, walked past him, completely unaware that her time was starting to run out. Outside, rain began to fall softly. Inside, Cal sat in the dark, folder open. He whispered only 2 words into the quiet room. "Now we begin." Cal sat in his parked car outside an upscale commercial building. Mirror-tinted glass, subtle cameras in the corners, valet parking. Brandon Lyles worked here. 5th floor. Office suite marked Sterling Equity Group. A fake name. There was no online portfolio, no real staff list, and no clients ever seen entering or leaving. Cal watched the front entrance through binoculars, posture still, breathing steady, like he had been trained to do in places where patience saved lives. Brandon exited the building at exactly 6:17 p.m., briefcase in hand, jacket over his arm, checking his phone. Cal watched him cross the sidewalk and enter a silver Audi. License plate already documented. He did not follow immediately. That was amateur work. He waited 7 minutes, then tailed from 3 cars back. No mistakes. Brandon lived in a luxury apartment downtown. High-rise. Controlled access. Parking garage with RFID entry. Cal already had a plan. He rented a room in the adjacent building 2 floors higher and directly across. The next morning, he installed a directional parabolic microphone on the balcony, precisely aimed at Brandon's unit. Brandon always left the balcony door slightly cracked while he smoked. That was all Cal needed. By sunset, he had clean audio. "She is dragging her feet." Brandon's voice came through the headphones. "No, she is not stalling. She is scared he will catch on." Pause. "He has no idea, I promise. She said he is clueless. He barely touches her anymore." Cal sat motionless. More audio came in. A second voice, female, muffled but clear enough. "I will file soon. I just need the lawyer to prep for temporary sole custody. He has PTSD. I will use that." Cal clenched his jaw. That lie was not only calculated, it was rehearsed, and it would bury him if she succeeded. The next 2 days, he built the beginning of what would become a digital noose. He cloned Brandon's office network remotely through a buried exploit left open on a neglected print server. Basic mistake. Rookie-level security. He found everything. Internal spreadsheets showing hidden transfers from Cal's own military savings account into Marrow Creek Partners. Some masked through crypto wallets, others passed through shell charities. There were fake consulting invoices, all digitally signed with a forged Cal Rain signature, uploaded in PDF format, each time from a different IP address. She had helped him do it. Kel printed everything. He burned backups. Then he went quiet. At dinner, she made stir-fry and wore the gold necklace he bought her 5 anniversaries ago. Brandon called today, she said, casual. He wants me to look over a new contract for his firm. Could be good side income. Cal looked up. Still helping him? She smiled. Just a little. He nodded slowly. You trust him? She tilted her head. What kind of question is that? He shrugged. Just wondering who still has your loyalty. She laughed. You, obviously. That night, Cal drove to the edge of the old industrial zone and met the man he had called in part 2, Jordan Kessler, a former systems analyst turned freelance fixer. Jordan opened the back of his truck. Inside were 2 briefcases and an untraceable flash drive. I found your leak, Jordan said. Her lawyer, Beth Rodin, works for Westfall and Ray. Quiet firm. Big on behind-the-scenes family court wins. Cal flipped open the folder. Custody prep. Emergency filing outlines. Allegations of emotional neglect. A proposed affidavit from a third-party witness claiming Cal had difficulty bonding with his son due to prolonged absences and trauma symptoms. Cal exhaled once. Are they stupid enough to fake that? They already have, Jordan replied. A guy named Tom Everson. He's a family therapist who owed Brandon a favor. Cal stared at the paper. They were not just trying to win a custody battle. They were manufacturing one. When Cal returned home that night, he tucked his son into bed. Evan looked up at him. I was half asleep. Are you going to be here for my birthday, Dad? Cal smiled softly. There is nowhere else I will be. Evan nodded and rolled over. Cal sat at the edge of the bed in the dark for a long time after that, listening to the hum of the baby monitor, watching the soft rise and fall of his son's breathing. He had protected diplomats, soldiers, and foreign assets in unstable countries. Now he had one mission: protect his son from the enemy inside their own home. The next day, Cal planted the final tool. A GPS tag on Brandon's car, small, magnetic, embedded under the rear bumper. The kind that pings only when the ignition is hot, leaving no trace unless you are looking for it. Within 48 hours, Cal had the movement pattern. Brandon was not just meeting her. He was visiting someone else. A man named Marshall Linwood, a former city records clerk turned private agent for hire. Cal pulled his record. Marshall specialized in document manipulation, forged witness statements, adjusted timestamps, and cleaning digital trails, which meant only one thing. They were preparing to alter something. That night, she brought out old wine, the kind they saved for celebrations. We should go away for a weekend, she said. Just us. Somewhere quiet. Cal looked at her across the candlelight. You really want that? Her smile did not waver. I miss you. I miss us. He nodded, swirling the wine. Let me check my schedule. She leaned across the table, her hand brushing his. It is good to see you smiling again. When she went to the bathroom, Cal checked her purse. Another phone. Third burner. This one had no messages yet. She had just activated it, preparing a new channel. Cal slipped it into his pocket and replaced it with a twin decoy, already wired to forward every message she would receive to his laptop. When she returned, he was still smiling. You look like you were thinking something, she said. I'm just glad we are talking again, he replied. But he was not just talking. He was building a perfect storm. By the end of that night, Cal had printed and organized a digital archive of every false record, every financial link, and every fraudulent document they had touched. He had videos, screenshots, GPS pings, and transcripts, all quietly archived under a folder labeled Day Zero, because when the time came to strike, that is what it would be for them. A reset. No warning. No survivors. Cal knew fear came in waves. The first wave made you doubt. The second made you scramble. The third made you break. His job now was to push them into wave 2 without laying a single finger on them. He would let paranoia do the heavy lifting. The day started ordinary. His wife made breakfast, humming. She wore a pale blue blouse, hair up in a neat bun. She was texting, smiling at the screen every few seconds. Probably Brandon. Probably planning her exit strategy. Cal placed a coffee cup beside her. You doing anything today? He asked casually. Just errands, she said, not looking up. Why? Just wondering. Thought maybe we could all have dinner later. Evan mentioned he misses when we eat together. She gave a soft laugh. Sure. Sounds nice. At 10:12 a.m., her SUV pulled out of the driveway. Cal waited 2 minutes, then fired up the cloned GPS feed from the device he had hidden under Brandon's Audi. As expected, she was headed to meet him. But they did not go to a hotel. They went to a suburban office building, half vacant, with a single legal consultant firm listed on the buzzer, Linwood Legal Services. Marshall Linwood, the document fixer. From a safe distance, Cal captured photos with a long lens. Brandon, pacing in the office. His wife, flipping through forms. Marshall at the desk, pointing at a line on a legal document. There was no affection, no body language of intimacy. This was not romance. This was strategy. Cal caught a glimpse of the form. It had Evan's name on it. A custody adjustment filing, backdated. They were forging a legal timeline, creating the illusion that Cal had already signed away parental rights months ago when he was overseas. He snapped the final photo. That was enough. He did not stop them. Not yet. He let them walk deeper into their plan, thinking they were 2 steps ahead. That night, at dinner, Cal played the perfect role. He made Evan laugh with old army stories, toned down for a kid's ears. She laughed too, sipping wine, pretending everything was normal. When Evan left the table to get dessert, she touched Cal's hand. This feels really good, she said. You seem better. He smiled. I am better. Maybe this is our fresh start, she said. It might be, he replied. The next morning, Cal sent a sealed envelope to Brandon's office. No name, no return address. Inside were 4 high-resolution photos. Brandon entering Marshall Linwood's office. Brandon handing over a folder. His wife seated at the desk, face visible. The custody form, caught mid-signature. No note. No threat. Just proof. The reaction came fast. Brandon changed his phone number that afternoon. Cal had already cloned the new one through her forwarded messages. Brandon texted her. Someone was watching. We need to slow down. I think Cal knows. She responded, You are being paranoid. He is clueless. You said so yourself. Brandon fired back. I am not risking a fraud charge. Do not contact me for 48 hours. Cal read every word with a calm face. They were starting to crack, seeds of distrust sprouting between them. He planted the next one. That evening, while his wife was in the shower, Cal placed a single manila folder on her vanity mirror. Inside, 3 printed pages. The first, an enlarged screenshot of her message. He has no idea. I made him lasagna. The second, a photo of Brandon's Audi taken from above. The third, a mock legal letterhead, and signed, warning of pending investigation for financial misrepresentation, wire fraud, and custodial interference. He left no fingerprints. No camera caught him placing it. When she found it, he was downstairs reading with Evan. She came down slow, pale, lips pressed tight. Did you leave something in the bathroom? She asked, voice calm but strained. Cal looked up. No. Why? She paused. There was some weird junk mail. Probably a prank. He nodded. You should be careful. A lot of scams going around these days. Her eyes searched his face, but he gave her nothing. Just concern, perfectly acted. That night, she did not sleep. She tossed, checked her phone every few minutes, got up twice to check the locks. By morning, her eyes were hollow. The pressure was working. Cal's next move was surgical. He contacted an old Navy friend turned CPA, quiet, off books, no digital trail. He handed over a thumb drive. I need to build a forensic timeline, Cal said. How these funds moved. Who signed them? I want it irrefutable. His friend opened the files, whistled low. Jesus, this is layered. I know, Cal replied. That is why I need it airtight. Meanwhile, he began pushing Brandon further into panic. An anonymous email. Single line. Fraud carries up to 20 years. So does custodial manipulation. Brandon changed phones again. He started paying for everything in cash. He skipped his office for 2 straight days. She messaged him again. You are losing your mind. Stop making this worse. Brandon did not reply. Cal smiled at the growing silence. Soon, they would no longer be allies. They would be liabilities to each other. And when that happened, one of them would panic enough to make a mistake. At the next PDA meeting, Cal arrived alone. She texted him that she was not feeling well. That was fine. Cal shook hands with teachers, smiled at other parents, played the picture of stability. The principal said, Evan is thriving. You being home again is really making a difference. Cal nodded. That is what matters. He looked across the room at the other parents. Happy couples, divorced co-parents, regular people. None of them knew they were standing beside a man building a war with no noise, no blood, and no mercy. That night, Cal received a new message. This one was from her, not from a burner, from her main phone. Can we talk? He typed back, of course. She came into the room 5 minutes later. Eyes tired, shoulders hunched. I have not been sleeping, she said. He nodded. I know. I feel like. I do not know. Something is off. He said nothing. I keep thinking someone is watching us, she whispered. He leaned forward, concerned. What would make you think that? She looked down. I do not know. Just something in the air. He touched her hand. You should rest. She nodded slowly. You are right. She kissed his cheek before walking out of the room. It was the last kiss she would ever give him without knowing he had already destroyed every lie she had built. The fractures were forming, and Cal was about to bring the whole house down, one quiet crack at a time. 2 weeks after the folder on the vanity, Cal received an unexpected letter. Real envelope. Handwritten. No return address. Inside, a single sheet of white paper, folded twice. You do not know the whole truth. Meet me at 10 p.m. Dock 6, River Point Marina. Come alone. No signature. Just a location, a time, and a message Cal could not ignore. He ran the envelope for prints, nothing but his own. He scanned the paper, no watermark, no embedded microdots, no traceable printer metadata. Clean. Old school. That meant someone knew how to not be found. He slipped the letter into a file and zipped it shut. For the first time in weeks, he adjusted the plan. At 10 p.m. sharp, he arrived at the marina. It was cold. Fog rolled across the water, clinging to the empty docks like smoke from an unseen fire. Dock 6 was near the end, a long wooden pier lit by a single flickering bulb. At the edge stood a figure, hooded, small frame, arms crossed tight. As Cal approached, the figure turned. A woman, early 40s, blonde, but dyed. Eyes sharp, worn face, but alert. You are Cal Rains, she said. He kept his hands visible. That depends. Who are you? She hesitated. My name is Lila. I used to be Brandon's wife. Cal's posture changed by a fraction, barely noticeable. But he was locked in now. Used to be. She nodded once. Until I found out what he did to me. They sat on the edge of the dock, feet hanging above the black water. I was married to him for 4 years, Lila said. At first, he was charming, polished. But it was always about control. Money. Access. And then came the gaslighting. She reached into her coat and pulled out a worn flash drive. This is files he did not know I copied before the divorce finalized. I held on to it in case he ever came near me again. Cal took it, still silent. She looked at him. He is doing to you what he did to me, except this time. He has a partner who knows the system better. My wife, Cal said, voice like steel. Lila gave a grim smile. She is not his first. Back home, Cal decrypted the flash drive. Bank accounts. Travel logs. A recording. He pressed play. She is smarter than the last one. Brandon's voice said through speakers. She knows how to stage the long game. Make him look unstable. We are going to drain him dry and leave nothing for the custody hearing. Another voice, female. Not his wife. And if he resists? We push the PTSD angle. Maybe even suggest violence. Courts hate uncertainty. Cal leaned back. Brandon had done this before. And Lila was almost him, just in another life. But this time, Cal was not going to end up empty. He started building a psychological profile, not just of Brandon, but of his wife. Not just what they were doing, but why. They were predators, but subtle ones. They did not just steal. They engineered stories. Stories that made the victims look like the villains. Cal set the next trap in motion. He called Beth Rodden's law firm anonymously. "I am an investigator working on behalf of a military client," he said. "We are flagging unauthorized access to protected financial data tied to a pension account." He gave a fake badge number and case file ID. The receptionist stalled, transferred him. He got voicemail. Perfect. He sent a follow-up email, untraceable, using language that implied an ongoing internal review. It would not break the system, but it would rattle them. 3 hours later, his wife's phone lit up with a message. "We may have a problem. Do not call. I will update later. B." She stared at the screen for a full minute. Then she deleted the message. But Cal had already received a mirror copy through his sync system. She poured herself a glass of wine, then another. She called her sister, chatted about Evan's school, played normal. But when she hung up, she looked at the hallway camera. The old one. The one she thought was still broken. Cal froze. She knew it had been replaced. That night, she did not sleep again. She kept checking the windows, listening for something. She walked the house with a flashlight at 3 a.m., thinking he was still asleep upstairs. Cal watched the footage live from the garage. He muted the feed. He did not need to hear her panic. He could see it in how tight she gripped the flashlight, and how often she looked over her shoulder in her own house. The next day, Brandon cracked. He called from a restricted number. Cal answered. "I know what you are doing," Brandon said. Cal said nothing. "I will go to the police. Say you are stalking her. You are unhinged. You are not even cleared to be in the country for classified reasons, right?" Cal waited a moment, then said, "Try it." Brandon paused. Cal continued. "You forged financial documents using federal military pensions. You partnered with a legal team to manipulate a custody case. And you did it all while knowing she was still married." Silence. "Do you think I'm scared of what you say? I want you to speak. I want your name on record. Because when this goes public, you will not just be a fraud. You will be a predator." Brandon's voice dropped. "I do not know what you think you have. I have enough," Cal interrupted, "to bury you, her, and anyone who touched this case file. So go ahead. Call whoever you want." Then he hung up. Later that night, she walked into the living room with her keys. "I need to get some air," she said. "I's tense." Cal nodded. "You want me to come with?" "No," she said too fast. I need to think." He let her go. Let her drive straight to Brandon's apartment. He was watching the GPS ping in real time, but he did not follow. Instead, he called Jordan Kessler again. "I need the internal timestamps on everything they submitted through Marshall Linwood," Cal said. "I need proof it was post-dated." Jordan exhaled. "That will take a little finesse. You have 48 hours. There was no fear in Cal's voice anymore. Only purpose. The morning started quiet. Too quiet. Cal watched his wife pack Evan's lunch, just like she always did. Smile just as sweet. Voice just as warm. But there was something different in her posture. Something in her shoulders. She was cracking. She was just trying not to show it. "Evan, go grab your shoes," she said. "We are going to be late." He ran upstairs. Cal leaned against the counter, coffee in hand. "You look tired," he said. She turned. "Could not sleep again. Bad dreams." She hesitated. "I just keep feeling like something's coming." Cal nodded slowly. "Maybe it is." She searched his face. Nothing gave her answers. After they left, Cal opened the digital archive labeled Day Zero. It was nearly complete now, but it was time to make a move. Not a direct attack, just a warning shot. Something loud enough to rattle them, but quiet enough to appear coincidental. A signal. At 11:23 a.m., the Sterling Equity Office's lobby printer, Brandon's fake business front, whirred to life on its own. 4 pages printed. Each one was a still image from Cal's hidden surveillance. Brandon handing Marshall Linwood a forged custody document. His wife smiling while signing it. Brandon's bank account routing log connected to stolen military funds. A copy of the power of attorney Brandon used, signed under Cal's forged signature. Each page was marked only with one word in red: watching. By 11:51 a.m., Brandon was on his phone, pacing. Cal was already watching the feed through the pinhole Kim installed in the hallway exit light weeks earlier. Brandon's voice shook. I do not know how he got it. No, I never talked to Marshall in front of cameras. I thought, pause, fine. Fine. I will take care of it. She just needs to stay quiet. He hung up and slammed the office door shut. Cracks were becoming fractures. That night, Cal left a gift in the mailbox of Beth Rodin, the attorney secretly prepping the false custody motion. A USB drive. No letter. No sender. The files on it. 2 audio clips of Brandon discussing document tampering. 1 video of Cal's wife laughing about timing the PTSD stuff for court. 1 image of the draft custody form with forged timestamp metadata. She would open it. She would know someone was watching. And if she had a single drop of self-preservation in her body, she would start distancing herself. At home, his wife poured herself wine again. 3rd night in a row. Cal sat across the table, calm, composed. I was thinking we should do counseling, she said. He raised an eyebrow. No. She nodded. I know we have both changed, but I think we could find our way back. He let the silence stretch long, then answered, I am not sure you would like what we might find. Later that night, she stood alone at the kitchen window, holding her phone tightly. She typed a message. I think he knows. Everything. But she did not send it. She deleted it, poured another drink, and stood there in silence for a long time. Cal watched her from the hallway, unseen. She was unraveling. The clock was ticking. At 2:13 a.m., Cal received an encrypted text from Jordan Kessler. We got the metadata. Confirmed. Marshall altered 3 document timestamps. 2 came from her home IP. They are cooked. Cal replied, send them to the Day Zero archive. Now we wait. The next morning, Cal dressed sharply, black button-down, no tie, clean shave. He took Evan to school, shook hands with a teacher, smiled for a photo with his son and his class. To anyone watching, he looked like the model father. But his laptop, running in the passenger seat back home, was uploading the first encrypted bundle to 3 locations. A trusted military legal contact, a private journalist friend at an independent news agency, and 1 anonymous cloud link sent directly to Brandon's office email. The subject line? Insurance. At 4 p.m., his wife received a call from Beth Rodin. She stepped outside to take it. Cal watched from the side window. She was pacing. By 4:06 p.m., she was crying. No tears in her eyes when she came back in. Just silence. Dinner was wordless. Evan noticed. You guys okay? He asked, mouthful of mac and cheese. We are great, she said too quickly. Cal just smiled. Just tired, buddy. At 9:12 p.m., Brandon called her. Cal intercepted the transcript in real time. He is moving fast, Brandon said. You need to act now. I cannot, she whispered. He is not breaking. He is watching. Every step. Then make him break, Brandon snapped. You are the one inside. That was your job. She said nothing. The line went dead. 2 days later, Cal was called into Evan's school. Not as a parent. As a subject. The counselor greeted him in private. There was a report filed anonymously suggesting possible emotional instability in the home. We are required to follow up. Cal did not flinch. He provided deployment documents. Letters from the VA. Evan's last 3 perfect behavior reports. Then, calmly, he reached into his bag and placed a sealed evidence folder on the counselor's desk. If you ever want to know who is really trying to manipulate custody of my son, read this. He left with nothing but respect in the counselor's eyes. Brandon had fired a shot and missed. That night, Cal found her in the living room, tears in her eyes. She looked up, voice brittle. I do not know what is happening anymore. He sat beside her. You should tell me. She looked down. I am scared. He nodded. Good. She froze. Looked at him again, really looked. His eyes were steady. His voice was calm, but there was something in the way he said it. Something final. Then came the real shift. The following morning, Marshall Linwood was arrested. Forgery, tampering, wire fraud, a sealed indictment. No news coverage yet, but Cal had ears in the system. The arrest was real, quiet, but devastating. And Cal had not lifted a finger. He had just fed the right person the right document from the Day Zero file. He did not need to destroy them himself. He just needed them to implode. And now? Beth Rodden was spooked. Brandon was disconnected. His wife was watching shadows in every room. The final storm was closing in. And Cal was already at the center, untouchable. 3 days after Marshall's arrest, the silence in the house became something else entirely. Not tension, not suspicion, fear. She walked lighter, spoke slower, watched Cal like he might suddenly lunge, though he never raised his voice, never touched her with anything but kindness. That was what scared her the most. She could not find the moment he changed, because he had never changed. He had just waited. On Wednesday night, she made steak, Cal's favorite, just like she used to. They ate together, Evan between them, talking about a school art project. Afterward, Cal helped Evan clean up, then watched her pour a glass of wine in the kitchen. She gripped the glass too tightly. "You want to talk?" he asked, gentle. She looked over, startled. "About what?" "About the way you are acting like I'm going to explode." She forced a laugh. "I am not. You are." He leaned against the fridge, calm, still. "You are trying to figure out if I know." She blinked. "If I have proof, if I am bluffing, or if I am just a man sitting on a bomb." She looked down. "Stop. I cannot. Not now." She placed the glass on the counter. Her hand was trembling. "I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered. Cal nodded. "That is the problem. You thought you could do this without hurting me. That you were smart enough to control every piece. That I would never see it coming." He stepped closer. Just one pace. Still calm. Still composed. "But you missed one thing." She looked up, silent. "You thought you were married to a soldier. But you forgot. I was trained for interrogation." The room fell quiet. No yelling. No tears. Just the sound of a woman realizing the game was over. The next day, Brandon ran. He emptied 2 accounts. Cut his phone lines. Rented a car under a fake name. But Cal was already on him. The moment Brandon used a card in a diner 60 miles out of town, Cal received the alert. Not from a government system. From his own, a quiet network of watchers he had built the moment this all began. He did not follow Brandon. He had something better in mind. That afternoon, Cal walked into the county courthouse, black folder in hand. He approached the civil records office and requested a public hearing file. Custody filing. Rains. Evan. Case #2041. FC. The clerk looked confused. "There is no such file, sir. Are you sure the case number is correct?" Cal nodded. "Positive." She searched again. Came up blank. Cal smiled. Someone had faked the filing, which meant someone was about to be exposed for forging court activity before it ever reached a judge. Exactly what he needed. Back home, she was waiting on the porch. "I need to know where this is going," she said before he even stepped out of the car. "So do I," he replied, walking past her. Inside, she followed him. "I am sorry," she said. "For which part?" Her eyes filled. "All of it. It started as something small. Then it got away from me." He turned. "You are a licensed legal assistant. You co-signed fake documents. You helped a con artist target a military fund. And you tried to erase me from my son's life." She dropped to the couch, hands shaking. "I wanted out, Cal. I wanted control. You were always gone, always silent. I felt invisible." He nodded. "And you thought if you painted me unstable, you could take everything." She started crying. Real tears, maybe. Too late. Cal walked to the bookshelf, pulled out a copy of The Things They Carried, opened the cover. Inside, a USB drive. He plugged it into the laptop and opened a folder labeled Wiretap, Primary. The screen filled with time-stamped video files. One for every night she whispered things into her burner phones. Every meeting with Brandon. Every lie she rehearsed in the mirror. He pressed play on one. He trusts me. He is so dumb. Just keep pushing for the custody thing, and we are clear. Her voice. Clear. Cold. She stared at the screen. Frozen. I am not here to hurt you, Cal said. I am here to prove what you are. That evening, Cal met with his lawyer, a combat veteran turned custody specialist. He handed over the full archive. Audio, video, financials, metadata, recordings, altered timestamps. You will not just win, the lawyer said, flipping through the evidence. This will nuke her in court. And him too. I do not want to win custody by destroying her, Cal said. I want her to stand in front of a judge and explain every single lie with my son in the room. The lawyer leaned back. You were playing the long game. I always was. The next morning, his wife was gone. No note. No goodbye. Just a house key on the counter. And the smell of old perfume in the hallway. But she did not disappear. She ran straight to Brandon. Cal watched it happen through GPS feed and traffic cam pings. They met at a motel on the edge of the county line. Cal waited 24 hours, then made his next move. That weekend, a local news blog ran a headline, "Disgraced financial advisor linked to federal pension tampering scheme." The article was brief. No names yet. But the image attached was clear, a grainy still of Brandon exiting Marshall Linwood's office, holding the forged custody paperwork. The source? Anonymous. Cal watched the page views rise. He watched Brandon's name start to get quietly scrubbed from professional directories. Watched as Beth Rodden's firm announced an internal investigation. Watched as a warrant was quietly filed, sealed, but real. Brandon would be indicted soon. She would follow. That night, Cal picked up Evan from a sleepover. His son climbed into the front seat and grinned. Dad, are we going to do that fishing trip soon? Cal looked at him. And in that 1 second, nothing else mattered. Yes. This weekend. No work. No work. Evan smiled. Cool. Mom said you were really busy again. Cal nodded slowly. Not anymore. Because the war was almost over. And the final move was going to be public. And permanent. The courthouse parking lot was half empty when Cal pulled in. Overhead, the sky hung low and gray, as if the world itself was waiting for something to snap. Inside his satchel, 3 sealed evidence packets, each stamped with his lawyer's initials. One for the judge. One for opposing counsel. One for the record. Today was a preliminary hearing, a scheduling conference for custody evaluation. Nothing final. But Cal was not there to schedule anything. He was there to expose everything. His wife was already inside. She sat near the back, blazer buttoned, hair pinned tight, hands folded in her lap. Eyes scanning the courtroom like a cornered animal. Beside her, Brandon Lyles. Clean-shaven. Nervous smile. Trying too hard to look calm. Cal took a seat 2 rows behind them, close enough to watch, far enough to keep the illusion of distance. The clerk called roll. Attorneys stepped up. Names echoed through the chamber. When Raines versus Raines came up, Cal stood. Opposing counsel was not Beth Rodden. Not anymore. She had withdrawn from the case 2 days ago, quietly, without explanation. Her replacement was younger, softer, unaware of what she had walked into. The judge looked at the case file. This is a motion to establish temporary custody and parenting time. Are both parties ready to proceed? Cal's attorney stood. Yes, Your Honor. Brandon leaned in to whisper something to her. Cal watched her jaw tighten. Then she stood, hesitantly. Your Honor, we request a 2-week continuance. There are new developments that require review. The judge looked over his glasses. Mr. Lyles, you are not a party to this case. Sit down. Brandon sank back into the bench. Cal's lawyer stepped forward. We object to the delay. In fact, we ask to submit material evidence regarding fraudulent filings and attempts to manipulate court records connected to this case. The room went still. The judge leaned forward. Material evidence. Yes, Your Honor. May I approach? She walked up and placed the sealed folder on the bench. The judge opened it. First page. A timeline of forged custody drafts. complete with metadata timestamps proving they were created weeks after Cal returned from active duty, not before, as the motion claimed. Second page, a digital receipt showing Brandon's presence at Marshall Linwood's office on the day those forms were fabricated. Third page, a signed audio transcript of Cal's wife, recorded in her own home, referencing plans to frame the PTSD narrative. The judge's eyes narrowed. He looked at Cal's wife, then at her attorney. "Do you have a response to this?" Her lawyer fumbled. "This is the first I am seeing any of these materials. I suggest you review them quickly." In the back row, Brandon stood and left the courtroom. No announcement. No comment. He just walked out, knowing what was coming. Cal watched him go. He would not follow. Brandon had already damned himself. Outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting. Not a crowd, just two local journalists Cal's military contact had tipped off with an anonymous lead. One asked, "Mr. Rains, do you have a comment about today's developments?" Cal stopped on the steps. Evan's face flashed in his mind. His promise. He chose his words carefully. "No comment on the case itself," he said. "Only this. Truth leaves a trail, and I have been following it for a long time." That night, she came home late. Evan was already asleep. Cal sat at the kitchen table, drink in hand. Nothing strong. Just clarity in a glass. She walked in like a ghost, pale, exhausted, defeated. "You embarrassed me today," she said. "No," he replied calmly. "You embarrassed yourself. I just opened the window and let the world see it." She sat down, hard. "I should have burned it all. Every message, every file. That is your instinct. Erase. Hide. Pretend." He leaned forward. "But I do not erase. I document." She reached for the wine bottle. Stopped. "Thought better of it. I never thought you would win. You still think this is about winning?" She looked at him. "Isn't it?" He shook his head. "It is about my son. It is about the truth. And it is about making sure no one else gets caught in your kind of storm." The next morning, Brandon's face hit the news. Not front page. Not CNN. But enough. Local man tied to financial scheme targeting veteran pensions. A sealed indictment. Fraud. Conspiracy. Document tampering. The article made no mention of Cal, but the subtext was clear. Brandon was cooked, and her name was next. At noon, her lawyer called. She did not answer. At 2, the school counselor emailed Cal directly, requesting a parent meeting, just to follow up. At 4, Cal received a copy of an email from the state's legal licensing board. They were formally reviewing her credentials. That night, she sat on the porch. No makeup, no mask, just the shell of someone who bet wrong. Cal stood in the doorway. "Do you want to tell Evan? Or should I?" She stared at the yard. "I cannot." "You will." He went back inside and printed out the full version of the Day Zero file. 2 copies. One for his lawyer. One sealed in an envelope, labeled simply, "If I disappear." Then he placed that envelope in a safe deposit box. Because he was not done yet. There was one more play left. One more thing that would end it forever. And this time, it would go viral. The morning it all went public, Cal did nothing different. He brewed coffee, sat at the kitchen island, helped Evan pack his backpack, kissed him on the forehead. "You good for school?" he asked. Evan grinned. "I got a math quiz. You want me to cheat?" Cal smirked. "You try, and I'll make you solve algebra while running drills." Evan laughed and bolted out the door. The front door shut. Cal stood still. Then, calmly, he walked to the basement. The screens were ready. The drives were active. Today was upload day. The package was already built. Project Cinderblock, named after the cold, heavy truth it carried. Inside the encrypted folder, 84 video clips, 17 hours of synced audio, 6 forged legal documents, 3 metadata spreadsheets, 1 full confession, pieced together from timestamped calls between Brandon and Cal's wife, reconstructed from burner logs and encrypted backups. And one last file, the whole story, 13 minutes.mp4. This was the centerpiece. It was clean, narrated, subtitled. Voiceover provided by a trusted vet in Cal's old unit. The video opened with the headline, how a decorated Army veteran was targeted, betrayed, and fought back with evidence. It included Cal's honorable discharge paperwork, a quick visual of his medals and deployments, a redacted letter from the VA, a side-by-side breakdown of financial theft, and a final audio bite of Brandon saying, "We'll say he's unstable. He'll fold. He always does." The video ended with one sentence, white text on black. But this time, he didn't. At 8:02 a.m., the upload began. Target platforms: YouTube via a trusted account with 12K subscribers, Reddit r/ProRevenge and r/exposing corruption, Twitter, now X, via 3 verified burner handles, 2 direct emails. One to a freelance investigative reporter, one to a podcast that covered high-profile custody fraud cases. At 8:11 a.m., the first Reddit upvote hit. At 8:23 a.m., the YouTube video crossed 5,000 views. By 9:06 a.m., the podcast tweeted, "We've seen some wild cases, but nothing like this. You need to hear what this man caught his wife doing." By 10 a.m., the story had crossed 150,000 views. Meanwhile, she was asleep upstairs. Cal made breakfast, cleaned the sink, pretended to scroll his phone. At 10:17 a.m., she came down in her robe, squinting. "You're up early." Cal smiled. "Just catching up." She poured coffee, sat down. Her phone buzzed, then buzzed again, then rang. She looked at the screen, froze. "Who's calling?" Cal asked. She didn't answer, just walked out to the porch, phone to her ear. He watched through the glass. Her knees buckled. Brandon called her, screaming, "What the hell is this? You posted this. You insane bitch." "I didn't. I swear. He did this. It's him. You said he didn't have anything." "I didn't know. You lied to me. You said it was clean. You said it was safe." "Brandon, listen. You buried us." "You stupid." Call ended. She came back inside, face white, hands shaking, phone still buzzing. "You need to take it down." Cal looked up from his toast. "Take what down?" "That video. Those files. People are calling me. My boss, my sister." "I did not post anything," he said. "You're lying. I sent everything to people who post things. What they do with it?" He shrugged. "That's on them." She stepped closer. "Please. This isn't just about us anymore. Evan's friend's parents are seeing this." "Good." Her mouth fell open. "You were going to erase me," he said. "You just didn't expect me to record it." By noon, the story had reached Fox, Vice, the Daily Mail, and Newsweek. Articles with headlines like, "Wife and her lover tried to frame military husband. He turned the tables." Burner phones, fake papers, and revenge inside the case that's exploding online. He came home from deployment to a lie. Now he's taking them all down. The comments exploded. "She deserves jail, not just divorce. Dude played the long game like a boss. This is the smartest revenge I've ever seen. She didn't marry a soldier. She married a strategist." By 3 p.m., her law firm issued a statement. "We were unaware of any client involvement in alleged legal misconduct. An internal investigation is underway." She was suspended. Brandon? Fired. His name stripped from all company pages within 6 hours of the leak. Marshall Linwood's court date was confirmed and moved up. And Cal? He turned off the screens. It was done. At 5:42 p.m., the front door slammed. She had left. No note. No apology. Just gone. That night, Cal took Evan to a quiet spot by the lake. They skipped stones. Talked about nothing. At one point, Evan asked, "Mom okay?" Cal paused. "She made a lot of bad choices, bud. That doesn't mean she's a bad person. But sometimes people forget who they are when they want something too much." Evan nodded slowly. "Are we okay?" Cal pulled him close. "Yeah, we are okay." The next day, Cal filed his own custody motion. Full custody, citing fraud, endangerment, and criminal conspiracy. He attached the video links as evidence. Within 48 hours, the court froze the joint assets. No more draining accounts. No last-minute withdrawals. Every piece she thought she controlled was now locked behind his fingerprints. On day 3, a sheriff's deputy arrived at Brandon's apartment. He was cuffed, escorted out without incident, and charged. Fraud, conspiracy, identity theft, attempted custodial interference. Bail denied. The news caught that, too. And Cal? He stood across the street, sunglasses on, still. Not to gloat. To make sure it was real. That weekend, he met with his lawyer again. The state will press criminal charges against her, too, the lawyer said. You've done enough. Cal nodded. Let them. On Monday morning, she returned. Not with lawyers. Not with excuses. Just her. And a crumpled envelope in hand. I don't want to fight anymore, she said. Eyes red. I'm sorry. Cal said nothing. I know it's too late for forgiveness, but not too late to be a better mother. He took the envelope. Inside, her confession. Signed. Witnessed. Turned in without a deal. He said only one thing. Leave. I'll make sure Evan still has his mother. But not until he knows who she really is. She nodded. Left without another word. 2 weeks later, Cal stood in court. Evan sat outside with a guardian. The judge read the file silently for almost 15 minutes, then finally spoke. This case is unlike anything I have reviewed in my entire career. Mr. Rains, your documentation is not only thorough, it is devastating. He looked at the opposing table. Your client has withdrawn all objections. Custody is granted to the petitioner, effective immediately. This court sees no basis for shared parenting until a full psychological review is completed. Cal exhaled, not with relief, with finality. That night, he burned the last of the burner phones in the fire pit behind the house. Watched them melt, one by one. Plastic, metal, wires, gone. He was not angry anymore, just finished. And then, like all storms, it passed. Evan laughed more. The cameras came down. The folder labeled Day Zero, locked away in a vault. Never deleted. Never needed again. But Cal knew this truth better than anyone. People will lie, cheat, pretend. But the evidence? The evidence never blinks. And when you are patient enough, when you wait, watch, prepare, truth wins. The courthouse was quiet. No cameras this time. No reporters. No attention. Just polished floors, the distant echo of heels, and the muted shuffling of case files behind frosted glass doors. Cal sat alone on the bench outside hearing room 4C, wearing a dark gray jacket and a button-down shirt Evan had picked out that morning. It had a small thread loose on the cuff, and Cal did not bother to fix it. A bailiff opened the door and nodded. Cal stood. Inside, the courtroom was empty except for the judge, a clerk, and a court-appointed family mediator seated near the left table. His wife was already there. She did not look at him as he walked in. Her face was pale, no makeup, hair tied back like it had been the first time he met her, before everything twisted. She wore flats, not heels. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap. She did not speak. She had no lawyer now. Just a court letter in her purse and a 6-month restraining order from Brandon, filed after he turned state's witness. The judge cleared his throat. This is the final custody review hearing for minor Evan Rains. Both parties have received the terms of agreement. Before we close, I will offer each parent the option to say something on record. He looked to her first. She stood slowly, shaky but upright. I know I've done damage, she said. I've made mistakes that I'll carry for the rest of my life. I lied. I betrayed trust. And I broke our son's world into pieces. She took a breath. But I want him to know I never stopped loving him. And I never will. Even if I don't get to be part of his life every day. She sat back down. The judge looked to Cal. He stood, eyes steady. I have nothing to say for myself, he said. But for my son, he deserves peace, honesty, safety. He deserves to grow up knowing love isn't just a word people use when they want something. It's what you fight for. And I will never stop fighting for that. He nodded once and sat. The judge stamped the order. Full legal and physical custody granted to Mr. Rains. Supervised visitation may be reevaluated in 12 months pending psychological review and compliance with state mandates. The gavel came down with a soft thud. Case closed. Outside, Cal stepped into the sunlight. It had rained earlier. The sidewalk glistened. A breeze passed through the trees, sending a single maple leaf skimming across the concrete at his feet. His phone buzzed. It was a photo. Evan and his coach, holding up a Little League trophy. "We won, Dad." That night, Cal pulled the final drive from his safe. He had labeled it with a single word. Before. It held everything. Every video. Every phone log. Every email. Every plan. Every betrayal. It had served its purpose. He stepped into the backyard, where the steel-burned barrel waited, dropped the drive inside, lit the match. Flames rose. He stood there as the past dissolved into smoke, the sky above him turning navy as stars began to blink awake. When it was done, he walked inside. Evan was asleep on the couch, arms wrapped around a stuffed bear he swore he was too old for. Kel knelt beside him, tucked the blanket tighter, then sat on the floor. Watched his son breathe. Listened to the silence. No more fake smiles. No more watching his own wife through cameras. No more counter-surveillance, no more burner phones, no more dark strategy. Just stillness. For the first time in months, maybe years, Cal could breathe without weighing it. 1 week later, a letter arrived. No return address. Handwritten. Inside, a single folded note. "Thank you for not destroying me. I would have." He read it twice, then put it back in the envelope and slipped it inside the drawer next to Evan's birth certificate. He would never respond, but he would not forget. 2 weeks passed. No news. No threats. Just life. Evan's school called to invite Cal to career day. He almost said no. Then he asked, "Can I just talk about being a dad?" They said yes. When he walked into the classroom, the kids stared at him like he was a movie character. One raised a hand. "Were you in the army?" Cal smiled. "Yes." "Did you fight in wars?" "A few." "Did you ever lose?" He paused, then looked at Evan. "Once. But I got back up." Later that evening, Cal and Evan sat outside with the telescope Evan had begged for months ago. "You ever think about what it's like up there?" Evan asked, pointing toward the sky. "Sometimes." "You think anyone's watching us?" Cal smiled. "Maybe." Evan turned to dial. "Good. Then they know you're a good dad." Fall turned to winter. Court dates faded. So did headlines. The internet moved on. Brandon remained behind bars. Plea deal pending. Cal's ex-wife started over in another county. Therapy, probation, no custody, but a sliver of time for monitored visits if she earned it. Cal did not make it easy, but he did not make it impossible either. He made it honest. On Christmas Eve, Evan asked, "Do you miss her?" Cal stirred his hot chocolate. "Sometimes." Evan was quiet for a moment. "I don't. Not the her from before. Just from when I was little." Cal nodded. "That's okay. Are we going to be okay now?" Cal looked at him. "We already are." By spring, Cal started writing again. Just for himself. He called the folder Rebuild. Not a revenge story. Not a cautionary tale. Just a record of what happened when a man chose not to fall apart. When he took what was broken and made something unbreakable. He had lost everything she touched: his name, his trust, his future. But not the one thing she could not fake. Not the one thing Brandon could not manipulate. Not the one thing that made it worth rebuilding. His son's love. Where are you watching from right now? What country? What city? Drop it in the comments. We would love to know where this story reached you. If this story moved you, or made you feel anything at all, hit the like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more stories with this kind of power, this kind of truth, you know what to do. Subscribe. More stories are coming. And some of them might just stay with you forever.